You want to start it off? Introduce yourself and everything?
No, you do it.
Me? Yeah, hi, welcome back, guys, to the TWC podcast. It's me and Dan, and this time we have Holly, the CEO of our company, with us today. So, hi, Holly.
Hello.
And we also have Dequan Townsend, who is a TWC vet, also a vet of the UFC. He had a couple fights there, and we're going to be talking to him. I'm excited. So, Holly, do you want to just give us a little update of what's going on in the TWC and what's coming up?
Yes. So I guess I'm sure you announced in the last episode we recorded that we'll probably precede this one that we have our farewell fight coming up in May. That is May 13th, and we're having it at the Causeway Bay at Pete's Place. So, we're going to sell out and pack that house. So that's going to be really fun. And I guess what I wanted to do today with Dequan was really catch up on his career history, because I don't know much besides just the stats you see in Tapology and stuff like that. And I kind of wanted to know the man behind that career wise. And that's really what
Cool.
I'm interested in doing here.
Yeah, I think we all are. So Dequan, do you want to start it off? What got you into MMA? What's your background like? What did you study for martial art wise leading into getting into MMA?
Well, honestly, I started off martial arts really taking like a Tung Sudo class, and I did that when I was young. I had a bad temper, so my mom put me in like a martial arts as a way of as far as discipline goes. So I've done that for a couple years, but I never thought about me being a guy in a cage. Like I've always watched, cage fighting and stuff, but I never imagined me being like one of those crazy guys in the cage is what they call it. I went to the gym. I wanted to get tattoos, and I was a skinny, scrawny kid. So I was like, man, I need to get some weight on, get some muscles before I put some tattoos on my body. And I took advantage of this cardio kickboxing class, and it happened to be ran by an MMA instructor. And he just pretty much talked me into, he's like, he's been paying attention to me, like, hey, ask me little questions without trying to ask me the question. So he was more of like, have I ever thought about fighting? And I got some really good kicks and, what I weigh and all the other stuff. And then he dropped the bomb on me. He was like, man, I really think that you can be a really good MMA fighter. And I'm like, man, those crazy guys in the cage? Nah, man, that's not me. He was like, you know what? Tell you what, let me take you to a local MMA fight and let me show you some of the guys that you would be fighting in your weight class, So yeah. I went with him, and when I went with him, I seen some of these fights, and I looked at some of the guys in my weight class, and I was like, man, I'd probably destroy some of these kids, man. And lo and behold, he talked me into having my first fight. Had my first fight, man, and beat a guy up in 19 seconds, and it was just
19.
Off to the races.
What promotion? What promotion was it?
It was Ron DeLeon.
That's
Capital
crazy.
City Cage fighting. Yep, I started my career there.
Wow. And then transitioned into other promotions in the state. At that time, I don't know what promotions were there. I don't know how long everyone else has been around. So has everyone always been around since that time, or?
They was around. They was around for a while. What I did was I ended up making my way to being the number one amateur in the state of Michigan. I had a 28-5 amateur record. And I remember when PD first came here, and I told him, like, you know what, I like your belts. I'm gonna fight for your title. You know what I'm saying?
I like your belts.
I like your belts. Because I collected all of them. I had a big thing about them. I'm like, man, whatever promotion, I wanted all the belts. I told myself I wanted all the belts here before I went pro. So I collected like 11, 12 amateur titles before I went to go pro. And the only guy that was standing in my way as an amateur, he dodged me for a second. And after that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just go pro. So it took me time to go pro, but I was glad that I took the time to go pro because I gained the experience, So other than that, I just made my debut at Joe Donofrio's show at Palace of Auburn Hills, and I just took off from there.
That's awesome. So then, what year did you actually transition? How old were you to pro?
I've been fighting since it was I'd say 2012, I would have to say would be my first pro fight because I was an amateur and I started fighting January 5th, 2009, and it took me 3 years. So
Wow.
I went 3 years before I actually went pro, which I could have went pro a long time ago. I just didn't want no one to talk me into it. I wanted to go when I was ready, you
Hmm.
know? And at that time, I was like, I want to fight the who's who. I want to fight because no matter how good my amateur record is, when you go pro, it goes back to 0-0.
Hmm.
So I wanted to fight the toughest competition around at that time. That way I could know mentally myself that I was ready to take it to the next level.
Seems like you had a really good strategy there, which is smart. And Brandon's popped on since we started. He's my chief project manager. He's got 16 Muay Thai fights under his belt. Muay Thai, sorry, fights.
Yeah.
Full tongue tied. And he's incredible. Honestly, like I've seen some of his stuff online too. It's pretty cool.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
How you doing, Brandon?
Yes, I'm doing well. My apologies. I was on the prior link.
Ooh, I don't know if you're connected to the sound.
Can you hear me a little bit better now?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think
still
it's
pretty
plugged into
low.
your headphones.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'll retry it, or I'll try a different headset.
Okay, we'll circle back to Brandon. That's fine. Okay, so yeah, you had a great strategy for like moving from AMI to pro.
Mhm.
Do you think a lot of fighters are like that, or that they're really strategic about it, or they just go and just trying to make get to that level where they can get paid?
Well, it depends, man. I mean, this era of fighters, I mean, they all pretty much just want to get paid. And everybody's ultimate goal and the end goal is the UFC. But at the end of the day, I encourage fighters to not rush into it, to take your time and to gain the experience. Because once you go pro, you can't go back. You know? So to gain the experience, don't rush it and trust the process. You know? Surround yourself with killers, surround yourself with championship mindsets, and then you really push yourself. And then what I recommend is people to fight the top people in their weight class as an amateur, and then you test yourself to see if you're ready to go to the next level.
That's a strategy for sure. It never would have occurred to me, but obviously I'm not a fighter. Well, Adam, you've probably done some research on Dequan and like seen some of his videos and stuff. So like, what questions do you have?
I'm interested in like the journey that took you to the UFC because I know you were there. And we had 4 fights there. How was that? How was the competition? I mean, what was the training like? Like, what camps did you do? I'm curious to see how that went.
So my journey to the UFC started off with me not knowing much about it, but knowing that I wanted to be in it. Mm-hmm. So when I got to UFC, it was basically at first I fought at 170. Right now, I've been fighting a different weight class. I used to fight at 170. I was 14-3 as a pro at 170, and then I was on like a 7-fight win streak before. It was like I took my first loss at that time. And it was on a TWC show, and I lost to like a split decision against a guy named Dakota Cochran. But before then, I couldn't find nobody. I had my coach was also my manager. And during that time period, I just trusted my coach. But at the same time, I didn't have the proper management. Not saying that he didn't know what he was doing, but you can't really be the jack of all trades, So at that time, I knew that I felt like I was ready for that next level, but it was like, how do I get to the next level? How do I get recognized? So I ended up jumping a different weight class, fighting at 185. And then, I ended up getting a management, and I'm managed right now by Iridium Sports agency with Jason House. So he's my manager now.
Good.
But the thing is once I remember him calling me and we were talking, and he had asked me about my first opportunity was a Bellator opportunity, and it was against this guy named Jordan. I forget his last name, but he was like 12-0, and I remember getting off the plane. Like I was going to Vegas for like Memorial Day weekend. I had ended up taking me and some friends. We all went down there. We partied, whatever. I remember literally in the airport, and he called me. He was like, "Hey, bro, we got a fight for you. Fighting a guy named Jordan in Bellator. Are you interested?" It was at 205, and I'm like, "Bro, that's outside my weight class. I'm not really, and it's a short notice, but I'm not really interested in taking a fight on a short notice, especially outside of my weight class for Bellator. But I do it in the UFC." you know? And he
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, understandable. That's cool, whatever. All right. So then he gives me a call back like 3 days later. And I remember this too. And I was like, literally, I weighed 232 pounds at this time.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I'm sitting on the couch, and I just got done training for the day, and I just had my little glass of Hennessy, and I was just drinking, and I was cool. This is my wind down for the night. And he called me. He was like, "Hey brother, how we doing?" I'm like, "All right." He said, "You said you'll take a last minute call to UFC." I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, "I have an opportunity for you and it was like 3 days notice. It was on a Tuesday. I got that call. I got the call on Tuesday, and he was like, "You fight this weekend. Would you be ready to fight this weekend?" I'm
Oh
like, "Well,
my
who's my
gosh.
opponent?" I'm like, "Who's my opponent?"
Crazy.
It doesn't matter. I'm down. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So he was like, "All right, well, the fight's at 205. I had a series of tests I had to take. I had a shitload of paperwork I had to do. And most importantly, I had to cut 27 pounds in
Yes,
like
that's a
3
lot.
days just to make this fight, So it was back to work. So I did it all. I didn't even have time to study for my opponent,
That's
It was
crazy.
just
Wow.
more of just that grind. So I never had a chance to have those jitters really of that, those UFC butterflies because I didn't have time. I was just more of like make the weight, make the weight, make the weight. I ended up losing that fight. They called it a TKO, but the ref later on came to me in apologies, claiming that he didn't know that from his angle it looked like it was a bad angle from what he seen, but he didn't see that I was actually wall walking, so it was action early stoppage. But whatever, dude got the W. But in the end, I remember telling my coach, I'm like, "Yo, this ain't my weight class. I'm going down to my proper weight class and to go from
Yeah.
there." So I never really knew how the UFC worked. I just felt like whenever they called you, you had to take the fights. You know what I'm saying? So there were some fights that I took that were like bad decisions on my behalf, but I wasn't really familiar with the background, and my manager was trying to walk me into it. So
Sure.
that was that. Other than that, I mean, I fought some pretty cool guys, but I just pretty much just tried to separate myself from everything else. So I went out to Colorado. I trained in Denver a lot. That's like my sister gym. So I still go out there a lot to train and prepare myself for fights. But other than that, I've surrounded myself with some of like championship mindsets. Like, I've trained with Rashad Evans. I've trained with Kamaru Usman. These guys that are pretty much get my mindset differently, so I know what it takes to actually be there and be in front of the bright lights. Because in the end, my biggest fear in the UFC was like, I don't want to get knocked out in front of all these people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
of
I was
course.
trying to be, I was like, I'm not about to get embarrassed on national TV. You know what I mean? So everything that I was doing was real strategic, and it was more of me about hesitant with me letting my hands go, and my manager and my coaches was always talking about like, "Quan, these guys don't want to stand with you. Just remember who you are." And I didn't think about that until like later on, and when I started doing like sports therapy and stuff. And it was me not realizing at that time that I was an actual threat. Because even think about it, out of 23 wins, I have 19 knockouts. You know what I'm saying? But I don't look at it like that. I look at it like, God, this guy across from me, he's big as hell. You know what I'm saying? He deserves to be here. But I forget that I deserve to be here too. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
But it
heck
was
yeah.
more because I didn't come from no fancy camp. I didn't look at it like that. I didn't come from no fancy camp, no big name gym. I didn't come from, you know what I'm saying? So at that point, it was kind of like I doubted myself, but I needed to re-put that confidence in myself to know that I deserve to be there. So, but I always told myself that was the first time I would actually be nervous until I overcome that hump. Because, you get nervous when you first step into the cage, and then you get your first cage win, and then it's not that nervous no more. Then you get your nervous again when you get that first title shot. And then when you win that title, okay, you're not nervous no more. And then the next time you get nervous, it's like, damn, I have to defend my title. Defending your title, you get nervous all over again because you know that this guy works to get there. You know what I'm saying? This guy one takes what's yours. So once you overcome that hump, like I had before, it became so easy for me. It's just another day in the park. Now my thing is what becomes so nervous for me is I have yet to get my first UFC win, and at that time, it still makes me nervous. So until I get that UFC win, it's be having those butterflies all over again until it get done.
Are you?
how?
Is that the goal? Are you trying to get back to the UFC? Is
Yes,
that
that
the long
that's
term
the
plan?
goal. Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Me
How
and my
many fights do
manager.
you need to get there? Like
Well,
technically speaking.
technically, my manager wanted me. He told me one or two more fights, and I'll be back there.
Awesome.
The last fight that I took was a must win, but I ended up losing that fight. And I lost it by decision, which was actually truthfully my fault because I should. Uh, well, the reason why I say it's my fault was because of the fact that I took the fight against a hometown guy. I knew all the risk. Took a fight against the hometown guy. And when I took the fight against the hometown guy, it was the day that MSU played Ohio State and Ohio State's homecoming game. And
Yeah.
I knew that I needed to finish him. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Mhm.
And there was no finishing. My manager was kind of pissed. Not my manager, but my coach was kind of pissed because I knew in my heart I won that fight.
Yeah.
I knew in my heart I won that fight, but I knew if it went to decision, I was going to lose.
Mm.
And, you know, I made a rant about it, but at the same time, I just kind of laughed it off because there was nothing that I could do,
Yeah. And then you had an
So-
injury, right? Didn't an injury occur?
Broke my hand.
Oh my gosh. Like gives you the heebie-jeebies. It's like how long did it take for that to heal to the point where you really truly felt like you were ready again for the cage?
Well, it was kind of difficult because I had broke my hand the first time when I broke it. I remember fighting Jason Butcher, and then I beat him, which Jason Butcher was pretty much, he was number 3 in the country at that time, and he was on the watch list. So I took that fight because I wanted to get myself right back in the rankings. Like, I didn't want to be forgot about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I did. So my manager didn't agree with the fight. Neither did my coach. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I can beat this guy. I liked the matchup stylistically. And I went out there and I destroyed him. I did break my hand the second round, but we went 5 rounds. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God, you fought with a broken
I
hand.
fought with a broken hand. Broke it in the second round. We went 5, but at the end of the day, I gained another title, another professional title at that for that B2 Fighting Series promotions, and which was a good thing. So, like 4 months later, I was fighting Dan Spahn, and I was fighting him in his hometown, and that's when I broke my hand again in the second. I broke it. We broke it, and after that, it was like shit. What am I supposed to do?
To give
Brandon.
Dequan his flowers on that Butcher fight. Butcher was trying to take Dequan down the whole time, the whole fight. I've seen that fight.
Mm-hmm.
And Dequan stuffed out every attempt, and it was the reason why he broke his hand is because he punched this man in the skull about 70 times in ground and pound. So I can see why he did that. There were liver shots. It was all stylistically. It was a great matchup for you. I've noticed that you have I haven't even looked you up, and I can tell you have a kickboxing background, right, Dequan?
Mm-hmm.
I can
Yes.
already tell.
Yeah.
When you see your style, because I'm a big fan of the technical fight, and what I noticed that is your biggest strength is your ability to very quickly adjust. So in that fight, you notice every time you threw a right hand, he would come in with a right kick. You threw it again just to see if he would do it again. You're like, all right, then I know I need to change this up. So
Exactly.
that's the thing. It's not everybody can quickly adjust to that. There's certain people, there's a reason why they teach you need to do a 7-punch combo, because in the fight, you're going to do a 2 or 3 punch combo.
Exactly.
And so everyone's always going to revert back to what they're doing. So the fact that you still have the ability to throw everything under the kitchen sink, mix up your combos when you see this isn't going to be as effective to him is really, really good. You do train with the Elevation Fight Team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you to say hi to Corey for me. He can tell you some stories about his LFA days in Phoenix. But yeah, some good times with Corey and his crew, Elliot Marshall, all of them.
You guys get into trouble. It sounds like there's going to be some fun stories there.
Yeah.
It's gonna be good, man. I'm actually planning on flying out there next weekend. So next weekend I'm gonna start my. Well, I already started my camp, but I'm going to go out there for like 3 weeks, part of my camp, like I always do, just to separate myself and surround myself
So
with,
smart.
the high elevation and put myself around, those guys who, like Kamaru Usman, and put myself with guys that I look up to. You know what I'm saying? Because in this game, it's not always about the guys who are in the best shape. It's 75, in my opinion, it's 75% mental.
Exactly.
When you believe in yourself, when you believe that you got it and you can do it, those confident fighters are dangerous fighters. You know what I'm saying? So, and I don't underestimate anybody. So the thing is it's always good to have that time to put yourself around those guys who's been there and gain that knowledge and, spar with some of these guys. Because if I'm in there sparring with guys like Curtis Blades and, I remember the first time I sparred with Rumble Johnson and, when he actually dropped me with a body shot, and I'm like, you know what? At that point, I felt like I was untouchable. Like, I've sparred with Rumble Johnson. Rumble Johnson dropped me. I got up and I still kept sparring with him. There's nothing that none of you guys can do to me. You know what I'm saying? And it gains a whole new different level of confidence.
Oh, yeah.
I have a pretty big question. So when you say you got nervous, defending your belt, going to get another belt, and all these fights, how do you mentally prepare to regain that confidence? What do you do? Do you train differently? Do you seek motivation from someone? How do you regain your confidence, whether it's a large gap in confidence or a small gap that you need?
Well, see, the thing is it was always easier for me to, I wouldn't say nothing's easy, but the main thing for me to have the more confidence in fighting and gaining and defending titles, especially in Lansing, this was my hometown. This was my stomping grounds. I felt like all my life, I felt like back in school when I was being bullied, back to school when I was being chased home. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had to fight for my own respect. So I felt like these guys respect me here. I can't lose in my hometown. I cannot lose a title that I worked so hard to get, that I was attached to, because then I felt like I would lose my respect from everybody who looked up to me. You know what I'm saying? So that gave me a whole different level of confidence. It gave me a whole new different level of how I looked at things,
Yeah.
And like I said, again, my goal is to get back to the UFC. And once I get back in it, I know that now I can come back in it as a different perspective and look at things differently after having so much counseling with, cause I had to do, I had the sports therapy and I had other counseling because my very last fight, which I'll talk to you about that later on in a second. But I looked at certain things, like, it's very important that you believe in yourself and your abilities when it comes to this game, because at one point I had lost my way, and at one point I didn't believe in myself. And when I didn't do that, I felt like, that's why I was beating myself. My coach always told me the same thing all the time. He's like, listen, man, you are your biggest competition. You are beating yourself. This guy didn't beat you. You beat yourself. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like once I get my very first UFC win, after that, I feel like it becomes easy for me. It's just another day in the park, because throughout my whole career, that's how it's always been for me.
When
you just need that one win.
Psychological barrier.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna get you there. Like, this fight coming up, you are just going to knock it out of the park. And what you just said is, like, that's what, when I created the TWC metaverse portion of the show, and it, created this psychological storyline for the audience. I came up with it when I came to the conclusion that, like, self-sabotage forms the basis of a lot of our bullshit that we go through in life. And inside the cage, it's just you versus you. Inside your head, it's only you versus you. That's it.
Exactly.
And then once you've conquered the you that is doubting you, and you come outside of your body, and now you're sparring with someone in the cage, it shows up. And I also noticed when I analyzed all of the fighters from the last card that we had, I realized the ones that didn't believe in themselves didn't sell tickets. It's almost like they didn't want people they knew to show up to see them lose. And that might have been their downfall, because it correlated. A lot of it correlated for me.
Of course,
to their
when you
wins
have
and
that
losses.
energy, yeah. When you have that energy, when you have those people that's supporting you, that's seeing you, and that's coming there, that's representing you, and you know what I'm saying, the shirts and the tickets that's sitting in your section and that's cheering you on, that gives you a whole different side of energy, and it gives you a
Mm-hmm.
whole different type of confidence. You know what I'm saying? Almost to the point where you want not be overwhelmed by it, but not to take, but just to soak it in, but at the same time to concentrate and not
Yeah.
only do it for you want to do it for them, but at the same time you want to do it for yourself because you can
Yeah.
get caught up into that.
And the
And
fanfare and all of that.
I've got caught up into that before, having the pressure from the outside world on
Yeah.
me, carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders, when reality is I needed to fight for me. I've always
Mm-hmm.
fought for everybody else, you know, and I remember this, and then at one point it was like, because I've been through a lot. Like my son passed away, and when my son passed away, I remember telling my son that I'm going to make it to the UFC. You know what I'm saying? I felt his heartbeat to his heart stopped. I was in the hospital bed with him when they pulled
Oh,
the
I'm
plug on
so
my child.
sorry.
You know what I'm saying? And I promised him that I was going to make it to the UFC. And then when I got to the UFC, at one point it was like a sense of relief, like I made my promise to my son fulfilled. But at the same time, it's not about just getting there. It works twice as hard as you have to stay there. You know what I'm saying? You got to work twice as
Yeah.
hard to stay there. In my very last fight
True.
in the UFC, the very last fight I took in the UFC, it was my fault. I self-sabotaged myself. And the reason why I did that stuff is because I didn't know how to properly grieve. My brothers got
Yeah.
killed 3 years ago. Coming up 3 years ago, both my brothers got murdered. And it was in Lansing. It was at like a local wing. It was like a local chicken spot. And the crazy part is, both of my brothers, they haven't lived in Lansing for years. One of my little brothers, my little brother's 32, my other brother's 31, and my brother, one brother was gone for like 7 years when my mom passed. And my other brother, he had just was gone for like 2 years. And he was only literally coming just to move my sister because I was preparing for a fight.
Yeah.
So I was preparing for this fight, and it was supposed to be at that time. It's Abu Dhabi. It was the Holly Holmes versus the Irene Aldana card, and I was fighting a guy named Dushka Todorovic. And the crazy part was my brothers got murdered a month in advance.
Oh my
I was
God,
supposed
Dequan.
to leave out. My manager, my coaches, they said, Quan, don't take some time, don't take this fight, this and the other. I didn't listen to nobody. I was so hurt. And at that time, it was more of like, I don't got time. I don't want to hear it. I got to fight to win. I don't want to grieve. I'll grieve once you know what I'm saying? I was taking all my pain and anger out on just training and just wanted to fight because I needed to
Yeah.
release it some way instead of just accepting the fact that we're gone. And
Yeah.
it really fucked me up, you know? So
Yeah.
I pushed it in the back of my mind. Now, I was a specimen as far as an athlete. I'm talking about I'm running on the treadmill at an 11, 12 for 45 minutes before I broke a sweat. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So as just every time I would zone myself out just to, you know what I'm saying, prepare myself for this fight. But then the odds come. I was training in Colorado for a while. My coach in Colorado, he couldn't make it because it was putting him away. He was already coming out of for another camp to deal with Raquel Pennington, so he was going to be gone from camp for too long, so he couldn't be. You know what I'm saying? She was on an Abu Dhabi card as well, but she was on a card 2 weeks before mine, and this is right when they start returning to Fight Island, so they start doing a lot of the Fight Island cards. So he was like, bro, he's like, as much as I love to, let's see if we can push her fight or push her card down so I can be on the same card. I can only make one trip. If not, I can't do it. And I understand and I respected that. Then my main coach, his card got his passport got flagged. It didn't come in time. So he couldn't make it. So I had two of my teammates come with me. And two of my teammates that came with me are guys that actually look up to me. So it's kind of hard to go there with no coaches. Plus, brothers passed away, but I put that in my mind. It didn't bother. It didn't dawn on me until every night before I fight. The fight night before I fight, I always, call my kids. We pray on the phone. We just pray for just pray for safety. You know what I'm saying? I don't pray for a win because I got to go out there and earn that win. So I just pray for, health. I pray for my opponent's health. I just pray, you know what I'm saying? And that's that, So I call my kids. I called, you know what I'm saying? And then I called my brothers and I called my sister and I went to call my brothers. And it dawned on me that they wasn't around. And I literally lost it that night. Like I was crying. I was talking to my teammates. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to fight. You know what I'm saying? It was like, he has to make me fight. And if you actually notice in any of my fights, these guys that I fight more relaxed and I'm more laid back. You have to be a threat to me. And if I don't feel like they are a threat, I don't really take them serious, which is a bad way to look at things, but that's just how I was, you know? And the guy that I was fighting, I could beat him on a heartbeat. And I know this, you know what I'm saying? It was just like, I took punches like I needed him to hit me hard enough to wake me up. And it was like, there was nothing to do. And I was flat footed. I was just off. It wasn't my night, you know?
No, it was not your night.
Yeah, and the thing wasn't, I should have did it. I should have grieved. I should allow myself to grieve, and I did it. I felt like that was going to be my grief. I'm going to go ahead and hurt this guy. I'll feel all better. And sometimes it either helps you, and you have a great, fantastic night, and you go out there and destroy somebody, or it can take a turn for the worse, where you can have a very off night because you're not focused. And I end up having that off night, you know?
I think that the tears, just from a behavioral psychology perspective, I think if you hadn't had that routine and you hadn't had this, thing of calling your brothers and, your family every time, let's say that didn't exist, you might have been able to kick the can down the road and like really just powered through it. That would, for me, would have probably been the psychological pivot point where you were either going to go in there and like unload that anger at the grief on the guy and win, or unfortunately, it's almost like, when they say you break the seal when you're drinking and you go to the bathroom and it's like, you can't stop. It's the same thing with tears. It's like really hard to put them back in the box once you've popped them out. And Dequan, I'm so sorry to hear about all of that. As part of your story, it breaks my heart. And you are a really like a great guy. Like Pete, just, since the minute we acquired the league, Pete has always had great stories about you. And so it's just like, it always happens to the wrong people, in my opinion. And I'm really sorry.
It's my life. And then at the end of the day, our story's been written in it. And my thing is I feel like I know I got so much more left in me. I know that, you know what I'm saying? I haven't had a chance to really showcase my potential, that what I'm really capable of. And that's the reason why I feel like I owe it to myself. Like now I'm doing things differently. I'm not, and even though, I'm very well known here in Lansing and I got a lot of support here. And I was one of the first guys to really make it to the UFC from Lansing. Then it got to that point where I felt like I owed it to everybody. It was more of like, I had the weight of the world for everybody. Everybody wanted to see me win. So I'm doing it for everybody. Now I'm doing it for me. So now me fighting for me it relieves so much pressure. And then I can just go in there and just do me and be me. You know what I'm saying? Now that I've grieved, now that I've done everything that I needed to do, you know what I'm saying? Put it aside behind me. It's like sometimes you have to take a step back to see things clearly, to go ahead and take a step forward. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm on that step forward stage. So I've had a couple different offers. The UFC still in the goal. The UFC is still my main situation, but I've had some conversations with PFL and a couple of different other more organizations, but I feel like I owe it to myself, like to show the UFC that I deserve to be there.
Sure.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And
you opened the door for this
exactly.
for this league too. A lot of the guys that have gone on to contracts, you open the door for them, and you deserve to be there too.
That, and especially for my team. A lot of my teammates from Murcielago is in the UFC now, and I pretty much opened the door for them. Yeah, it was good. So what I'm saying, we got a lot of guys that's in there now. So and our team is doing pretty good, man. We're making a lot of noise, and if you seen where we trained before, where we came from, man, it was like, yo, this is where all these killers come from. It was like,
Just for you guys who aren't like Michiganders, so Murcielago, he's one of the gyms that gives us a lot of athletes for our card. And his AMIs, even his amateurs showed up and impressed me so incredibly at the last fight. They were already in my head. I was like, those are amateurs? Those aren't amateurs. They were so good. So Joaquin's a great coach. Dan, you haven't said much, but you're an MMA coach, correct?
Yeah, correct. I'm
like
a
in Florida?
striking coach. based out of I was out of Western Mass, and I've relocated to Florida. But very similar like type situation where out there it's mostly small gyms unless you go out towards Boston. And even then, like most of those gyms aren't like the huge names. You know, there's like Sityodtong and stuff, but a lot of those guys in like those smaller, like lesser known areas, like they have to work hard. Like these guys have to prove themselves as amateurs to even get attention. And you'll see some guys, they're real high level, and like some of them will break that barrier. Like the guy I was training, Nathan Garib, he is now like he's been on the cusp of like the UFC for a little bit. He's training at American Top Team now, but he was training all small gyms. We were training out of a basement. And yeah, there's a lot of guys in small areas that have to work hard, you know, so like they're coming to fight for real. Like they take it seriously. Like they know they have to take it more seriously because they don't have like a big name behind them. They know like it's basically all on them. Yeah.
Yeah. The promotion, they have to self promote. Brandon, how was that like for you as an experience, you know?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question, Holly.
So, you know, in Muay Thai, I know it's a little different from like the MMA scene.
Sure.
So what was that like in your experience?
Muay Thai is different because it's not as loud as boxing or MMA is, right? If you say you're an MMA fighter, there are organizations, there's a lot of gyms. Muay Thai is kind of like the half brother. It's like the redheaded stepchild where people like him, but he's not the main course. And so you see a lot of guys transition from Muay Thai to MMA, or they transition from MMA to Muay Thai. So for example, there's a Chip Maraza Pollard who he was okay at MMA, but then he transitioned to Muay Thai and he excelled because striking was his base. He didn't want to do ground game. And so he's fought all over the world now, and he's one of the most respected Muay Thai fighters, and he fights out of a small town in Massachusetts. You know, so there's stories like that where you do have to push a little bit harder. But the difference with Muay Thai is you have tournaments that you can go to in Muay Thai where you can get all of these fights and experience. So there's 4 tournaments in the US. There is one's put together by Satan. Either way, there's 4 tournaments, and there's certain people that'll end up having 30 fights in a year or close to it because of these tournaments. So there's a lot of guys.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of fights.
One of my best friends, Joel Haro, who's an MMA fighter fighting out of Salt Lake City. He took 2 years away from MMA because he wanted to get his striking game up. So he fought something like 15, 20 Muay Thai fights in 2 years just to get his striking up, and then went back, and he's flourishing in Salt Lake City.
We need to know the name of the cat, Adam. That is important for me. I want to know the name of the cat. Olive is now a co-host at the TWC MMA podcast.
Yeah, she's making a guest appearance. Am I trying to slowly wheel her away?
I have a pretty serious question, but one that I want an answer to, because I know that when people watch this and they hear it, Dequan, they're gonna want to know the same type of way. Is at what point after all of your tragedy, after the UFC, you did a lot of grieving both with yourself and with your family. At what point did you say, my life is not over? When did you find that spot? And like, how did you get there? What did you do?
So there's times where, and the thing that I felt like, because it's like, well, dang, a lot of people look at it like, okay, you made it to the UFC, you know, and damn, you know, at least you made it. That you don't have another opportunity to get back in. And that's not necessarily true. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, when I was talking to, like, when I talked to Mick Maynard and, you know, my managers and everything else, my stocks never went down. I was always an exciting fighter. I was always something that they wanted to see. You know what I'm saying? Because I always wanted to bring the fight, you know, which was a good thing. So the reason why I felt like I wasn't done, because like even times when I needed to take time away, like when I broke my hand and stuff and let myself heal, it was more of like, what do I do with myself? I don't have nothing to do with myself. I'm not in the gym. So it's like, damn. So I find myself going to the gym just to help my teammates, just to to talk to them, just to be in that atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? And then there's certain things like I see certain fighters that are in the UFC that I beat as amateurs or that I fought before, or certain guys that I see that I'm jealous of. That it's like, I know that I'm better than this person. I know that I still deserve to be there. So I know I still have the fight left in me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I feel like when people know they're done, you'll know when you're done, you know? And it's like, I still have that fire burning inside me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get bored if I'm not training. I've been doing this for 15 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, this is me. This is my life. I still have certain goals that I haven't reached yet. And I want to make that happen. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I still feel like no matter what's going on, I still have one good run left in me. And I know I will land with a major promotion.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to make it happen, Dequan.
It's just all about
I
strategically
get what I want in life.
being
I will
smart.
make that happen.
It's all about being smart. It's all about being smart and learning that this game of MMA is all about chess and not checkers.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's all chess. You got to play the smart. You got to be smart with your approach.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm playing 3D chess. Like, real life.
She does the Queen's Gambit chess where she like plays it on the. If you've seen that, she like plays it in her mind. Like, yeah.
Like on the ceiling.
Oh yeah.
I'm out here. I'm working hard, and I realized when I got the promotion, like I was like, oh shit, like the job of the promoter is to get you guys X number of fights for the athletes a year, but also like to spotlight you guys. And so if you're not on a national stage, there was you're really just left to the devices of the scouts showing up that we don't know if they are or not at a little TWC event in Lansing. So the whole
you'll be forgotten about.
Exactly. And so that's why I was like, okay, I need to make TWC a national brand. This needs to be whatever I can do to get butts in seats so that there are fans for the fighters, and also showcasing the fighters' stories. Because you could be a great fighter in the cage, but if the person knows what city you're from, bam, and they're from there, now they're connected too. They have the same story as you. They've lost a loved one, bam, now they're connected.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, because a lot of guys that are in the UFC that's fought on the TWC cage.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? That's surprisingly. The thing is, like I said, and just like Dan was talking about earlier, Michigan at one point wasn't recognized at all for MMA. At all.
UFC hasn't been there in years.
No, we had to get saved. We was literally considered not a non-sanctioned fight, state and all kinds of stuff. So we really had to work twice as hard to earn our rights. Like, we're from Michigan. Like, this is where we belong. Like, y'all keep overlooking us. Like one of my guys, I fought him before as an amateur, or I fought him as a pro before. But Jamal Hill, like me and Jamal are like this now. And he's a UFC light heavyweight champion, and it was the same way. It was like, y'all keep sleeping on this. Y'all keep, and that's the thing. It's like, we had to go out there and really earn our way, so we deserve to be here. We're not from big name gyms, and the big recognized and notable gyms like they got like in Florida, or the American Top Team, or Black House and stuff like that, or Stream Couture and places like that you would think like, okay, well, he's in the UFC, he's from Stream Couture, of course he's there because this is the gym he came from. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
We had to make our own connections. We had to make ourselves noticeable. And that's the thing. So it's like, now that's where I'm at. It's like, I'm going to go ahead and get myself in a win column. Do I need to do? And then now it's more of like, who do I need to fight next? You know what I'm saying? Who are you guys looking at so I can see that you got the eyes on him, so I can go steal the show so your eyes are back on me? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And that's
just for you guys, look at this. We just posted this to the TWC MMA page. We reposted it because Jamal Hill posted it. That's him in Michigan with his belt from UFC with a billboard of himself behind him. Now that is how you know you freaking made it,
Yeah. And Grand Rapids, they love it. and they love
Of
it. You know what I'm
course.
saying? They supported him. You know, we had as soon as he got off the plane, the Grand Rapids airport, and it was a whole bunch of people greeting him, and it was nice.
Awesome.
It was really nice.
I love
really
it.
nice.
You know, what our next, one of our episodes coming up, I'm going to have Chad Kuhn on here. He
Fun
told
fact, he
me
will
the
be there.
funniest. Oh,
He will
Chad?
be there. Fun fact, he will be there. He will be there.
He's my event manager.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's definitely coming May 13th. We ain't already talked
Oh, of
about
course.
it.
Good. Okay. Yeah.
We definitely talked about it.
Like,
Him and Chaos Williams.
So.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. He'll be there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wait, Jamal
he'll be
Hill
there.
or Chad Kuhn? I'm so confused. What are
Well,
you talking about?
Jamal Hill.
He will?
Oh, he'll be there. It's like I said, listen.
That's so
We're like
exciting.
this.
Oh,
We're
I
like
love
this.
it.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that makes me so happy.
We got a lot of guys that's coming that's gonna be there from the UFC. So
Good.
Jamal Hill will be there. Chaos
Okay.
Williams, he's fighting the week before.
Okay.
He's gonna be there.
Okay.
You know, Joaquin Buckley, he's gonna be there. You know,
Oh
you got a lot of
gosh.
guys that
You got a posse. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Like,
So
we
got
are
a
going to
lot of
make
guys
the
that's gonna be
UFC.
there.
I know for a fact Dana White knows about me, and Don Davis visited my LinkedIn profile the other day, but he didn't add me as a friend, so I went over to him and I added him. I was like, oh, come on. So yeah, but I was, but I circle back to this idea of like Michigan, being on, not, being on the map, so to speak. I'm going to have Chad Kuhn on here to tell you guys the story because it had me cackling about how like the UFC was like, nah, fuck this shit. One time when an audience just like broke out into this huge fight within the audience at a UFC fight, and they were like throwing chairs at each other and shit. And I was like, yeah, Dana White couldn't handle Michigan, but I can. It's like MMA mama bear, just got to make the audience happy. That's all you have to do. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was funny. So Chad's going to come on and share that story in one of our episodes coming up.
And
that's sweet.
Dequan, you have a fight coming up, right?
Yeah.
Best of luck there. What are you going to be?
Wait, do you have one before my fight?
I had one before your fight, but that fight fell through. He got suspended. Dude got suspended.
Okay.
And when he got suspended. No, I was gonna listen. My mind, I'm so locked in to the point where it's like, what do I gotta do to get back to where I was at? I was gonna fight April 8th, which is probably this coming weekend. Mm-hmm. Catch a body. Literally catch a body. Go back, be right back Monday. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And was willing to go in and just to make it happen. You know what I'm saying? And the thing was because it's like I'm so locked in, it has to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like I'm putting myself on a timetable because you have to think about it. I'm getting older. I'm 36 right now. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like I'm getting I'm in my prime, but other people, if you're not a fighter, like Dana White, he's not a fighter. You know what I'm saying? Certain people who aren't fighters, they don't know when they don't know when certain fighters are reaching their peaks or when they're feeling like they're in their best moments.
They can't be inside that body. Yeah,
exactly.
They don't understand it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And the good thing about me is I never really took a lot of damage. The only damage that I've ever taken was me inflicting on other people. You know what I'm saying? So I broke his hand 4 times. Oh my gosh. But you know what though? I remember it because I remember when I fought Butcher and I broke my hand in the second round. I'm like, Coach, I broke my hand. He's like, you broke your hand? He said, well, go out there and hit him with the other one. You know what I'm saying? Go out there and hit him with the other one. And the first thing I did, because I didn't want to mentally handicap myself, knowing that I knew my hand was broken because I broke it before, is I went out there and I punched him straight in his face with the same hand I broke. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's an interesting technique.
I mean, because at that point, if I don't, then it's gonna mentally, it's gonna tell me that I can't do something. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
You're absolutely right. Psychologically, that was actually the right move. I don't
never want to be told that I can't do something. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because I overcame all adversity when it came to me. And if you watch that fight, the first round, he had me in some trouble. He had me in some trouble. You know what I'm saying? And after that, I knew, like you were saying, Brandon, I knew how to make that adjustment. And I knew, no, it's not happening again. You had me in trouble for like the first minute and a half, and after that, not happening. You know?
If
I'm making you a brand shirt, by the way. I'm going to sell it at the fight. It's going to be the Dequan shirt. It's going to say "Catch a Body" on the front of it. I literally just sent an email to my merch guy. I'm like, design it. Do something fun.
I want it. That's the goal. Like, and as I said, this fight's going to be exciting, man, because I'm going out to the prove a point.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm going to prove a point that I still got it, and I'm happy in it because I'm glad that Lansing got a chance to actually really see me fight again, especially in our hometown, because the fact of the matter is I've been asked for the longest. People thought I retired. Did you retire? When you fight again? When you fight again? When you
Yeah.
fight? And sometimes it's so hard to get me a fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Especially
that's
with
what
the
Pete
experience
said.
that I have now. And even like for like April, when I was going to fight, they literally went through. He told me he went through 18 to 23 different guys, and they would not take a fight. I offered to even fight for free just because I needed that fight. Just because I
That's
needed the fight.
insane.
I was
People
like,
are
I
afraid.
need the
Pete
fight.
says people are afraid to get in the cage with you.
Yeah, but I mean, it's more of like, I mean, I'm a humble guy. I'm not an asshole. I mean, I'm going to fuck you
No,
up.
yeah.
You know, but
It's a game.
Like you said,
we
I
can
pray
have
for my
drinks
opponent's
afterwards.
health.
This is
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
It's nothing personal.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's just business. I'll buy you a drink after.
I love it. That's great.
So-
Well,
Yeah, I
Dan and
definitely
Adam, do you
believe
guys
you
have
have-
any?
I definitely
Questions?
believe that he has a hard time finding opponents. When you have somebody, you're a vet and you have a ton of experience, and you fought on like the world stage, and you're a dangerous guy. So like you've put yourself in the point where you have to compete on the world stage to actually get fights and actually compete. Because these regional guys, they're not going to want anything to do with you. Like they're trying to build their careers, and they know like they run into you. That's a hard fight, and they're in there and they're going to get hurt. And I had wanted to build on earlier about like your level of confidence and like where you feel like you're at now. You say you feel like you're hitting your prime, even though technically you're older, but you have all of that experience, and you experienced the world stage in the UFC, and almost in like the worst circumstances that you could run into on that stage. But does that actually help your confidence, because you've already basically felt the worst, and like now it's just getting back there with all the knowledge that you've acquired. And I mean, you fought stiff competition. Like I looked up your record in your career. Like you fought tough guys your whole career. You didn't build your career like a lot of guys do, fighting guys with losing records and stuff. And even you got thrown into the UFC, and they put you up against tough guys one after the other. So do you feel like you've reached like that next level of like confidence and like belief in yourself from all of that experience, all the tough and all the hardship and things like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Now it's more of like my goal is just to get back. You know what I'm saying? And my goal is just to get back to the UFC, because now it's like I faced so many people. I faced so many tough people. It's like whatever they put me in front of, you're not gonna put me in something I ain't never seen before. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm not gonna step in a cage with somebody that's spectacular, that presents something that I have never seen before, and that's how I look at it. So now it's like I've been in the UFC. I've already seen some of the highest competition. I've already fought some of the toughest competition around the world. So what are you gonna do? So now and the thing is now it doesn't change my.
He cut out for a second for me.
Oh, we lost you.
We'll give him a second.
Can't. Okay.
That I am sleeping on any opponent. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get overconfident, try to get super fancy and try some crazy stuff. And I'm going to go knock this guy out with a head kick knockout this time and go for something and get blasted and KO'd and lose a fight that a guy should have never won because I was trying to be fancy. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to still have the same technique and go in there and still be the same guy that I was before. You know what I'm saying? And go the fight to win. You know what I'm saying? Any guy that step in a cage with me is a dangerous guy. I don't care what his record is. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? He believes in himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't have did it. You know what I'm saying?
You've got a record for sure.
At that point, I'm not sleeping on nobody. But it also gains me my confidence, the fact that me knowing that I've seen everything across the world, that all I got to do is execute. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, again, and a lot of guys have asked about sports therapy. That helps. A sports therapist actually helps. It helped because sometimes you have to think about it. If you look at my whole career, there's not one time in my whole career that I've lost 4 fights in a row.
Yeah.
And when you get to losing certain fights, then you get to question yourself. Am I good enough? Do I still deserve to be here? Do I still got it? You know what I'm saying? And losing fights, and especially fights that you busted your ass and you worked hard for and you lost, and the guy was just a step ahead of you, or he just outclassed you, or whatever the situation may be, it makes you feel like I don't deserve to be here. Maybe just my time was up. I had a good run. You know what I'm saying? And I don't never want to feel like that. And then when I got to that point where I started to feel like that, I needed to go back to the drawing board and reassess myself. And that's what I did. After that last fight, it was more of like, I got pulled aside, you know what I'm saying? And, Dana White was like, I'm sorry for your loss, but maybe you need to handle certain personal issues at home. You know what I'm saying? Handle those things first. He's like, I can see it. When Jason Herzog stopped the fight, and I'm like, I'm not done. I'm still in the fight. He's like, I know, but you're in the fight not for your own good. He can tell. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like, I wasn't doing it for the right reasons, but at the same time, I needed to let it out. You know what I'm saying? So now my approach is different,
Yeah.
So to answer your question, Dan, yeah, you're right. 100%. 100%.
You got this. Honestly, you've done everything you're supposed to do. You've grieved appropriately. You've come to resolution, and you've worked through the majority of that trauma. And now it's just about like healing afterwards, after the fact. And you've done everything you can physical, wise as well. So it's like you're back. You're back. I have every
I'm looking
ounce of confidence in you.
I'm looking forward to it. Like I said again, my goal is to, as soon as this fight is over with, like I wanted those 2 fights, because 2 fights, 2 wins in a month, it sounds so much better than 1, but it doesn't matter. I'm still on the phone talking to my manager right afterwards. Like, listen, what do you have for me next? You know what I'm saying? Because we already had a couple different things that I had turned down that was like too extreme short notice, which I know now. I am noticing now that in the UFC, you know what I'm saying, we gotta really know our worth with certain things.
Yeah.
And it's like the thing is, if you start accepting short notice fights, then you're gonna start becoming blue corner fighters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm marking that clip for sure.
Yeah, they're gonna start becoming blue corner fighters. Like, okay, well, we know a guy that's gonna take the fight. We know a guy that's gonna take the fight. You're gonna become a yes man. And the thing is, at that point, then it's not like, are you really trying to benefit your career, or are you building someone else's? You know what I'm saying? And now I'm to that point where, like, I will take if I need to get back in the UFC by taking a short notice fight to get back in. Okay, I will just to get back in. But after that, I'm not going. There's none of that. You know what I'm saying? Give me the same proper time like you give everybody else, because I've never had an opportunity throughout my whole career. When I was in the UFC, I've never had the proper full camp to fight somebody. You know what I'm saying? At all. At all. All my fights were all short notice. Every last one of them.
You deserve,
the only one I would have had a full
good
camp.
matchup.
Yeah, only one, and that's what I'm saying. Give me a full camp. I'll fight whoever I put in front of me. And if you're unsatisfied, hey, that's fine. We'll part our ways. But at least I know that I had a full camp. I gave my best. I did it all, and I could never have nothing. You know what I'm saying? I have nothing to say about that.
You can say exactly. You didn't leave anything up to a what if. It's like you gave it your all. You came back and you know exactly what you did. You left it all in the cage.
Exactly. And that's
regrets are the worst. That is the worst thing you could live the rest of your life with. So I'm really proud of you for getting back out there. And I'm also very grateful to you, like for other, people on here who aren't familiar with Michigan MMA, like Dequan is a draw for our amateurs. So we, when he's on our card, like the fighters in town are like, bet, like I'm coming, like onto this card, like I'm working with them. And so he always is like, and he's been like with Pete for a long time. You helped Pete build the promotion, if you think about it in that regard.
For sure. So, I helped him with a lot of people, got a lot of people coming in. I told him, I'm like, yo, when he came into the promotion, the way TWC is set up, the guys' whole situation, like you guys literally can take over. Like there's not many promotions that are here. There are a couple that are decent, but there was no promotion that was better than TWC is. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm not just saying that because I'm on a podcast. I'm saying it because I fought in every promotion here. I fought on them all. You know what I'm saying? I fought on them all. I seen how I was treated when it came to all.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And I seen how they treated everybody else. I seen how the environment, I seen how they had their shit together. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
so,
exactly.
It's a good promotion. You know what I'm saying? It's actually, and you guys can go places for sure.
Oh, I'm excited for it. When we at this fight, we're gonna drop our where we're expanding to nation, because we're going national now. We're expanding to a big venue in a different state. So we're going to be dropping that at this fight for the audience. And so, yeah, I think ultimately this is going to be huge. This is going to be a banger, man. We're going to have people sitting at the bars outside, like around the hotel, watching the pay-per-view, simply because once they get there, it's going to be so sold out, It's going to be awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah. So that's good. All
right. So TWC 101.5, Fair and Alice, which, Adam, you and I have to have a whole podcast about the background on why I named it that, because everyone's like, Holly, we can't even spell it. I'm like, I can't either, but it's from Alice in Wonderland. It's my favorite book. God damn it. So, yes, we are having a big party, Lansing, Michigan, May 13th, 2023. Doors open 4:30. We'll have a little bit of a pre-show prior to, and then we're going to have the fighters. We've got some amazing sponsors, including View Energy Drink, which one of the co-founders is Gordy Gronkowski, from the Gronk brothers. And it's a natural energy drink. I'm really excited about it. I actually have been doing a packet every single day. All our fighters are going to get packets sent out to them for them to try it out. And one of our other big sponsors is Sankey Global. They are an incredible microbiotic supplement and energy supplement. They're actually formed on the guts of these ancient warriors called centenarians. I have to get that right. We'll have to figure out how to say it, but they're the people in the world that have lived the longest without diseases, and in their executive team is the last standing samurai. And she's a motherfucking woman. Isn't that amazing? So that is our second big ass sponsor. And then we got Stonehead. Stonehead is a cannabis company, and their booth is giant 8 by 20 foot booth. It's bubblegum pink with this gorilla in the middle that had a joint. I saw them at Canadelics when I was a speaker there in Miami, and I was like, I want you at my MMA fight. I want bright pink in the middle of my most violent combat sports promotion. I'm like, I need to pinkify it for Mother's Day weekend. So those are our three major sponsors. And so I just want to give them a shout out here on the podcast, because they're actually what's making all of this possible. So thank you so much, Dequan. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Dan. You guys are awesome. I cannot wait for the rest of our podcast episodes. We're going to have fun building this out and developing it out.
It's also going to be my birthday weekend that we fight. My birthday's May 11th. My birthday's May 11th.
I love it.
So they're like, what are you going to do for your birthday? I'm celebrating on the 13th.
There
after I get my hand raised.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So,
we're going to throw a rager. We're going to throw a rager. So instead of TWC after party brought to you by Stonehead, I'm going to say Dequan's motherfucking birthday brought to you by Stonehead. Sponsored by. Oh my gosh, that's so much fun. Okay, I'm going to make sure we have a gift for you that weekend. But, all right. Thank you guys so much for being here, and Adam and Dan, thank you for hosting the podcast for us. And I guess Adam, you can take it away and check into the lobby.
That's it. Dequan, do you know who your opponent is? Do you want to? In what weight are you fighting at?
I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, my opponent is Marcus Molden. He's a veteran. He's actually had a lot. He had a lot of. He's had himself a lot of pro experience. He had a lot of pro fights. So, and he's tricky. He's beat some people that people didn't expect him to beat. So, I look forward to stepping in the cage with him. He's very respectable, but he's very confident in himself, because he's told me before, he's like, look, bro, he was like, man, no offense, bro. He was like, but I'd love to get in the cage with you. He's like, he's like, I'd fight you. He was like, you're good, but, I'm good too. So it's all respect. You know what I'm saying?
We look forward to
Moulding,
it.
Right? That's who your opponent is, Marcus Moulding.
Yes.
Got it.
We look forward to it. So May 13th, Lansing, Michigan. Look in the bio for the link to the tickets and the pay-per-view. So awesome. Thanks, guys.
Oh, and just before we check out, I want everyone to know that the tagline for TWC is where legends are made. This is literally the legend that made that tagline. This is literally, Dequan is why that tagline exists for us today. So that is pretty cool.
Thank you for your time,
Thanks.
Dequan.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you.